Hello, fellow IB students. My name is Humberto Cisneros, and welcome back to another episode of Business and Management from IB Resumido. And yeah, today we're going to be seeing the second part of the functions and evolution of business management. This will be the last video I will be doing of this block of doing videos because this is until when I am, like right now. There is another topic that's still developing, but I don't want to talk about it because I'm just seeing it and I don't want to get myself confused. And I don't know. I won't get myself confused, but I will like to move on to other videos, and I will feel bad if I don't remember a lot about the topic that I'm actually seeing right now. So yeah, I normally study my topics. The topic I'm seeing right now, I haven't studied it. So this will be the last video of the block. I don't know if I'm gonna do more, but it depends on how much I take editing. I still have to edit all of the videos. So yeah, comply with me. Sorry if the editing's bad. Remember to leave a comment if you feel like anything's lacking off the videos. If you have any doubts, let's go. I'm looking at a presentation. Again, remember that. I'm always saying it. I'm looking at a presentation. That's why you'll see me look to another side. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to be seeing a recruitment process. Recruitment process is something very exciting because I believe that most of us have thought about recruitment always. Recruitment is something so beautiful inside business because it's something that even if you had a mentality of a shark, or if you had that hunger for empowerment and entrepreneurship, you've always dreamed about being hired on a business. We used to see these cartoons and everything about getting hired, that you probably always wonder what it was to be in a business meeting. But there's a lot of things behind business meetings and things like that. There is a whole step program that at least my platform Cognity, I use Cognity for business and management. If you don't, I kind of recommend you take a look at it. If your school doesn't like approve it or doesn't use it, you can still use it by yourself. You can pay for it. If it's under your possibilities, I recommend you do. It's a great source of learning, great source of practice. So yeah, there's a whole step program on recruitment, on getting somebody to a job, that it's a little bit more tiring for the business itself, I believe, than for the person looking the job. If you see it from that perspective, the person looking the job just sees the job, applies, and maybe gets it. The business has to do a lot of things apart from that. So yeah, recruitment, it's hiring people. It's a whole thing, recruitment. It can go always, like, it I think recruitment goes to the point that it goes even to the point that you're already hired, because you're still like kind of in the recruitment process. I think if you see it in a philosophical way, you never leave recruitment, because you're always training, you're always on the business, you're always on the risk. If anything happens of being fired, there's a risk. Like, you're never really either hired or recruited. It's kind of weird when you think about it that way. But yeah, first of all, the what you have to do as a business. Remember, this is what a business has to do. We're talking business and management, not employees and management. So, um, this is what a business does. Remember, I remember thinking about this and it was like, it sounds really similar to what a person would do while finding a job. It is not. First of all, you got to do a job analysis. You got to analyze what type of job you're looking for, because once you've identified the type of jobs you need, on the last video we talked about that, you have to analyze, well, what is a job, and what is the job? What is it gonna take? What am I gonna pay for? What are going to be the rewards? What's going to be the position? Where is this person going to work? Is it going to work in the office? Is it going to work outside? Everything. Everything. It's like making a whole new business, but just making that position. Even if the position already exists, you need to evaluate it constantly, because position change. And maybe a position can be very different in different companies. So you got to analyze that. There has to be a job description, which is the more formal way of the analysis. After the analysis, you actually do a document with everything somebody has to have for the job. It's not the person, it is the skills. It's mostly what the person will do. Job description is what the person in the job will do in the job. And then we go to person specification, which is the person that will be doing all of the things you listed in the job description. What is that person that's going to do all the things in the job description has to be like? What type of skills does he or she has to have, etc. There's a whole person specification. It can go from anywhere. Of course, you can get into ethical problems depending on what you put there. For example, if you put white, male, tall, muscular, and wears glasses. Everybody that does not have those characteristics, but maybe has the capabilities to do the job properly, is probably gonna find a little bit of conflict in the type of job you're looking in the type of applicant you're looking for. So there's also ethical you see how everything is connected. There's also ethical problems inside of business. So yeah, there's also a job evaluation that has to be done. You have to evaluate the job in relation to other jobs of the organization. That's after the job analysis. After you have described, search for the person and everything, there's an evaluation. How much value is that business going to give to that certain job, that certain position? It's something really magical because it's like having that little egg and you're like, hey, you're special, you know? Because remember, you're special. Now we're gonna see the job advertisement. Job advertisement. On my time back in my day when I was younger, I remember I kind of liked looking at newspapers for the job advertisement. Things like that can happen. You see job advertisement into in the newspapers. It was a classical way. I remember seeing cartoons or series when somebody will just like look like a use like a dart and like a bullseye and just point at a job and get the job. Flyers. I don't know if you guys ever watch Austin and Ellie. Trixie was her name. She was always getting jobs. She was always getting interviews. I guess with time, advertisement has just got easier. You either do an ad on Instagram or maybe actually put it in the newspaper. It actually now depends on the people you're looking for. If you think about it, you're probably not gonna put an ad on Instagram for teenagers if you're looking for an economist specialist, like a senior economist. You're probably going to do that on the newspaper or maybe LinkedIn, depending on. I call it LinkedIn. I'm sorry if anybody calls it different. But yeah, it is now. Before it used to be just just advertise, just go away and get someone. But now where you advertise it and how you advertise it does have to do with the type of person you might be getting as an employee. Now, there's a selection. Now that you have advertised, people have looked at what you're looking for. There's something else, which is selecting everybody that's going to be there. Like, hey, um, uh, who have applied, who actually comply with the requirements, which is the first filter. Like you have the application process, which is like, hey, these are my documents, this is who I am. And there's shortlisting, which is comparing like, hey, uh, these people are the good ones. And then there comes the interviews, which are the more formal ones. If you get past the first filter, you go to the interviews. And if you get through the interviews, well, kind of like college, you probably either do some more activities and maybe even you do more things such as references. You get references from other people that you are a good worker. Maybe somebody that works in that same business recommends you, or maybe somebody that has a very important name in the department can recommend you, and that gets you higher on position than anybody else that maybe doesn't have enough connections. That's why people connections are important. If you ever go to a party with your friends, it is not a party. You're making connections. Remember that. You got to think as a businessman or a businesswoman. Um, there's a contract of employment, of course. Now that you're recruited, you have to sign a. Well, now that you have been chosen, you have your references, you have been selected, you have been shortlisted, you have been interviewed, etc., etc., etc. You have to have a contract. I'm sorry. You have to have a contract of employment. Very important. Very very important to have a contract. It is what's legal. It's the legal part of Steeple. Remember that. So yeah, you always have to comply with legalities, paying taxes and everything. And whenever you hire someone, you got to make sure that they too. So you got to set up something formal. You cannot just hire someone. Hey, you work for me. How? Just like that? No, that's not possible. I'm sorry. There's things that happen once somebody is recruited. That's why I say that the recruitment process never ends because you're already like you never really have the job. It's not like I don't know, maybe like a college where you do everything to apply to a college. You get into a college and now you're in the college and you can just leave the process there. No, you're not never just a worker. You're always training. You're always facing new challenges. You're always going to things like seminars or things. Training is a process where you provide opportunities to workers to make better of their work. Maybe they don't know anything about the job, so you do things like induction, which is the final stage of recruitment to provide like a type of induction to employees, so they know where you're going to be like working. There's on the job training and off the job training. On the job training is training while you work. Off the job training is a little bit extra. Examples of off-the-job training can be lectures, conferences, simulations, etc. And on-the-job training can be things like mentoring, um, coaching, e-learning, something like that. Just uh, job rotation, which happens in a place called Kitsania here in Mexico, where people go to different work so they can experience everything and have like a good knowledge of what working everywhere is. That happens a lot in business. You have to get the business of working in different departments so that you can maybe either be a manager or have a general appreciation of the work of everyone. There is two types of training in general, both on the job and off the job. There's cognitive training and behavioral training. Cognitive is more, brain, how you think and everything, and behavioral training is more how you act. If you want it in short words, is cognitive how you think, behavioral how you act. Very simple. I think it's common sense how somebody will think on a business, like maybe there's a problem and how you gonna develop that critical thinking towards solving it. And the behavioral training, it's actually act like it's more physical. It's how are you going to face a situation, not your brain, but like how are you going to, well, of course your brain, but how are you going to act depending on the situation? How are you going to be efficient with the company? There's also something very important once somebody's in the job, and that's appraisal. We talk about employees leaving with job dissatisfaction, which means they're not happy with the job they're having. There are many ways of appraising an employee. There can be just saying, "Hey, you doing good," or actually giving him a prize. There's just countless ways of seeing how an employee develops in his workspace and actually telling him that that happens. There's the performance appraisal, which is done by a superior and is told how good is someone doing in the job. There's a formative appraisal, which means after projects and stuff, you like tell them what they can improve, areas of improvement, what did they good, what did they do good, what they do wrong. There's summative appraisal, which is summarizing all of the things, like summative, everything during a certain amount of time, maybe during a project, during a year, during 10 years, you praise them. There's self appraisal, which happens from the employee, him or herself. They decide, hey, I'm doing good. That's awesome. And they get self motivation, which is really important. What happens to a business? How can a business achieve self appraisal? Well, either an environment or just actually like, yeah, well, I guess it's pretty simple. You just make it happen. You just make an environment where an employee can feel good about themselves without you actually telling them they're doing a good job, so that they themselves feel like they did good. Maybe putting a workload that when they finish it, they feel happy for doing it and they just appraise it by themselves. There's also 360-degree feedback, which is asking many people, maybe the surveys about which departments are performing better and stuff. Maybe when you do like teachers surveys, like how a teacher is developing, maybe they can ask like different departments, the opinion of other teachers towards other teachers, the opinion of students towards teachers, the opinion of teachers towards students. It goes all around the circle. That's why it's called 360 degree. There's also um, disadvantages to appraisal because they are time consuming and they're not always right. There can be a manager that is very, very angry with life that can tell you that you did a very bad job when in real, like when in real times, like when you actually did a good job. So it can be very subjective, and it also takes time and money. If you want to make a whole event about appraising an employee or a department, you have to spend money and you have to take time away from work. So it is time, like it's more of moral, it's more of a moral thing. That of course moral is very important in a business, but it's not something that it comes like that and goes. No, it's something that you actually have to plan and you actually have to do good, because a bad appraisal can have a very, very opposite effect, which is very negative in the business in all aspects. There's also dismissal and redundancies. We talk about why employees leave, but we never talk about the common terms for them leaving, especially when they are fired. The common term we know as fired, it's called dismissal. Dismissal is when somebody is taken out of a business. They do not go, they are thrown out of a business. There's lawful and unlawful dismissal. Lawful is when they have a reason to throw someone out. Either they did something illegal, or they are not, they are breaching the contract, or they don't have the performance needed. They, I don't know, arrive late constantly to work. They don't have the dedication that it's needed to work at a business, etc. There can be many factors that affect lawful dismissal, but an unlawful dismissal, it's basically anything that does not have a justification. You need to have a justification for a certain employee to leave. If you don't have a justification, then why did you fire him? Right? Are you being illegal? Are you being subjective? Are you being unjust? Like unfair, sorry. Well, you have to analyze all of that to get to know whenever you are doing a lawful or unlawful dismissal. When doing a lawful dismissal, you have to pay way less money to the employee you're firing because, yeah, that's the way it works. And redundancies are very easy. It's basically whenever you have to kick someone out because their position is no longer needed. Either it has been replaced by a robot or not. Maybe you merge. Remember merge? You remember mergers? Well, maybe you merge and there are two general regional managers, and it's like we don't need two general managers, right? So yeah. And there's also voluntary redundancies. There's types of redundancies, but they can be voluntary or involuntary. Whether you say, "Hey, I don't need you, you go," or maybe you have five people and you only need three, and it's like two of you guys have to leave. Maybe we'll give you some money if you guys leave voluntarily, and maybe two people are like, "Hey, I wanted to leave this business from time ago," so they leave. That happens. That's voluntary redundancies, and involuntary, well, they just don't choose who leaves or not. You know, there's also work patterns and practices. What you call work patterns or work practices, they're normally traditional. It's what you normally expect from a cliche type of business. I don't know, arriving early, 9 to 5 job, um, calling sir to your boss. I don't know, formality, arriving in a suit, things like that are kind of like traditional work practices. And there are many differences in the work patterns and practices, especially in modernity. There can be difference in economic sectors, how maybe people in the low economic sector couldn't be hired as a certain thing, but now even if you don't have studies in university, maybe you have the abilities to comply with a high demanding job. So that is something important, something that has changed around time. And something very important that has changed around time is work structures. They're now flexible. There is organizational restoring, which happens within firms, and there's flexi time working, which means that you have different times of work. It's not like I said a typical 9 to 5 job. You can either change recruitment practices. You make the worker choose where they work, when they work, etc. There's training. Training can also be subjective now that there's more flexible ways of working. Teleworking is something really important in new work structures because now people are working from their homes, which is something really innovational. People realize that you never really needed an office to work, but yet again, there's disadvantages to this, and it is that when you work from home, people expect you to be available at all times, which kind of has a counterpart to being in an office. Because if you're in an office, you're like, okay, this is my time for working. When I leave the office, I'm not working anymore. But it really depends the person. Really depends the boss, the manager, and everything. There's also part-time employment, which is just working certain times, not a full job. Flexi time, which I mentioned before, it's having a more flexible um, schedule of working. And there's also migration workers. Migration workers are really important. Basically, anybody that works in a country that is not the one they were born at. They just traveled and now they're working at a country different to the one they were born at. And finally, we have outsourcing, offshoring, and reshoring. Pretty interesting. Outsourcing, well, in summarized words, outsourcing is whenever you go to another country. You outsource. Well, no, my bad. Outsourcing is not when you go to another country. You you have to pay attention to that. Outsourcing basically is whenever you have a job that is not principally part of your business, but you still have to do it, and you ask another business, "Hey, can you help me up with that?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. We'll you have to pay us this amount of money, and we'll do the work for you." And you're like, "Great!" And now you have one less part of manufacturing a product, maybe, or one less service to provide that is not really your core service, so that somebody else does it. You pay that somebody else, that other business, and yeah, they're not your business, they're another one, but they're doing your work. It happens very commonly. Actually, in Mexico, I think there's kind of a law that's kind of prohibiting that. It's really weird. I think you have to demonstrate that you have to I think you have to demonstrate that you actually cannot do that job by your own, so that you can outsource. But yeah, also offshoring, which I confused with outsource a couple of minutes ago. Offshoring is whenever you go to another place, off the shore. You are in a place and you decide, hey, let's take our business here. Another place. You offshore to somewhere else. There's also reshoring, which is going back after an offshore. You offshored, but then you're like, hey, I want to go back. I miss my country. Let's reshore. And yeah, you go back to where you were originally from. And that's basically outsourcing, offshoring, and reshoring for you guys. I hope you really enjoyed. This was kind of a big video. I'm really sorry, but it's kind of the end of the business management series. I don't know if I'm going to upload more, but I hope I do. I'll see you guys next time. Remember to leave in the comments if you have any specific questions. I will try to answer specific ones because it does help me study for my case studies, which are coming up about in 3 weeks. So yeah, thank you guys. Wish me luck on my business finals, and I'll keep seeing you guys in other videos. You guys will still see me. Of course, I record them at different times, so you're not gonna see me in the same mood, maybe, or in the same shirt or something. I don't know. But yeah, thank you for being here. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.